All right. I'm gonna give them a break and let you guys take the opportunity to join in this conversation. Add your questions. Add your personal comments. You know, how are you coping with dealing with the realities of living day to day with an illness like PH in your lives? We got 3 microphones in the room. This is the hardest part, these like 7 seconds. Oh, I see Lisa going for a microphone.
My question is for Tarya.
Hi.
What can we do in Vancouver to make the experience for patients with pulmonary hypertension better in terms of supporting your mental health?
That is such an excellent question, and I am going to throw it back out to the room. So way back in the day, Natalie and I, we're co-leading a support group in Vancouver. When I was first diagnosed, there was nothing that was particularly active happening in Vancouver, and so I was like, let's start something. And we did, and for a long time we were meeting up monthly for coffees in East Van, and there was a lot of value in that. And Karen, where's Karen? Used to come pretty regularly. Karen. But a lot of the times it ended up just being either myself or Natalie or just the two of us, which itself had value. But then she and I both got sicker around the same time and found it difficult to manage the weekly coffee meetings. And then since then, she's had a transplant and I've started on IV medications and we're both doing much better. But we haven't really picked up the pace again and figured out where we're going to go with that. So I would love to hear suggestions from folks who are local on what would be useful. So the monthly coffee thing I don't think was all that useful for people. We tried like an if you build it, they will come model, and they didn't really come. So if like education sessions would be a lot more useful, or if activities, we did a picnic once and some people came out, that was pretty cool. But would love to hear your ideas on what would be most useful. So Lisa, I don't know if you and I can coordinate, because people don't necessarily have my contact info, though I'm super Facebookable, and my first name is odd enough that I'm pretty Googleable. So feel free to reach out to me, or me through Lisa, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. Or through us as well.
Or through Jamie, absolutely, sorry.
Yeah, no, just putting it out there.
Because I would love to see something up and running again. I'm not as active in PHA Canada as I used to be. I work full-time now, and so I've sort of taken a step back from that volunteer role, but I would love to see something happening. I would be happy to put some energy into that.
Okay, I have a quick comment and another question, and then I'll stop hogging the microphone. I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to BCPHS for their $20,000 grant to support counseling for patients in our clinic. So if you're going through... So if you are going through something, you know, definitely that's an option. And if you need to know how to get a hold of that counselor, just contact Connie or Kelly or myself in the clinic. And then the second question that I have to ask Tarya, or Betty maybe, because she has some experience as well, is people often ask me about working in pulmonary hypertension, and you guys all know, those of you who are my patients who are on prostacyclin therapy know my particular perspective on the issue, and which is, you know, I think working is a great idea. I'm not sure that working full-time is always the greatest idea, because you guys are definitely in the long game. But I just thought, as somebody who does work, what are some kind of tips and tricks that you could tell me that have worked for you that I could talk to patients about?
For sure, yeah. So as a caveat, I say I work full-time. My schedule, I have an extremely supportive employer. I work for the nurses union, so I'm surrounded by nurses. I have an IV start kit in my office in case I should need it. I couldn't be more well supported. And I do have a lot of time off built into my contract, and a lot of flexibility and a lot of sick time. So that being said, working full-time, I don't think I would recommend. I almost never work a full-time week. But for me, it has been incredibly valuable. It's an area of my life where I don't feel disabled. And that's a big deal for me, because there are a lot of areas of my life where I feel disabled. So for me to have a space where I can be really successful, where I can make a real contribution and have a different hat to put on, so have that researcher hat or have that policy hat on and sit down and have a meeting with the Ministry of Health, and then I feel really cool after that, like I've done something cool today. It's really helpful for me in terms of being able to compartmentalize too, and have these different areas of my life. But I would, in terms of tips and tricks, I think it is really useful, if you can, to talk to your employer and let them know that you have something going on. For the most part, people can be very understanding, but with the invisibility thing, you really kind of have to talk about it more than you might be comfortable with. Asking Lisa for a letter is a great idea because Lisa writes beautiful letters. And also just making sure that you're taking time. When I first went back, Lisa said, you know, don't be afraid to take a sick day. And I have really taken that to heart. And I don't feel like I need to be at the edge of really doing badly to take a sick day. I can sort of gauge for myself, okay, I'm not doing as well as I could be. I need a rest day, and I'll take that. And I think it's hard for us to give ourselves permission to do that, but I would encourage you, if you're going to be working, to do that kind of self-care to keep yourself well over the long term.
Betty, did you have anything to add there? You? Did you? Lisa put you on the spot too, so I just checking in.
Yes, some of the folks I dealt with, it depends on what kind of job you have. Like, you probably can't go back being a longshoreman or being a waitress in a really busy restaurant where you're carrying heavy trays and things like that. So it really is kind of limited as what you can do. But yeah, I agree. Going back to work is a good idea. It's a very good idea. But it has to be the type of job that you're not going to feel that you can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
it really has to be very thing. And if you can't do it, like if I can talk about Liz, Liz was a licensed practical nurse. Well, there was no way she could go back to that. So what did she do? She put all her energies into forming the BC Pulmonary Hypertension Society. So there's things to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Volunteering is a great alternative. And for me, like, I went back to work, and it was going from, you know, chasing a toddler around all day to sitting at a desk. And I did quite well at the desk.
Yeah. Yeah.
The BCPHS?
Here, I'm gonna let Judy speak, and I'm gonna get a mic over there, and then we'll come back to you in a second.
I think it just speaks well to kids as well, because I think sometimes it's forgotten that when kids are diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension or have that disease, the expectation is they go to school full time. And it's important that we consider what we're telling their teachers and their educators, that even though we can't see it, it's those same considerations need to go into place as well. So even as the physicians or nurses or anybody working with these kids, there is that awareness that it would be no different for kids. So just throwing out there for the kids.
Yeah, kids have jobs too. All right, well, the question that was over here?
I'm not very good at I've never spoken into a microphone before. I wanted to know, I used to work full-time, and I really miss that because I've lost, well, I don't want to work full-time now, but, and I'm not used to being alone all the time. I notice that people disappear when you're sick, and I just feel I get depressed and frustrated because I'm always alone, and I love to be out there working and being with other people like I used to before. And so I definitely would like to know about the career one. And it's also hard because my body's very complex. I have several conditions. Like, I have severe allergies. I've had at least 7 surgeries. And of course I have the PAH and asthma. But I still want to be a part of society and get out there and do as much as I can. So that would be one question.
Is anybody familiar with any specific kind of, career help services for folks with disabilities? I mean, I know they're out there, but anything specific?
I know that there is, and I wish I could remember the name of it. I follow on Facebook, there's a BC Disabilities Coalition or something to that effect.
Yeah, they're called Disability Alliance.
Is that
now.
what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that they have services available. I would also strongly encourage, even volunteering is the kind of thing that can get you out of the house and sort of help you to feel out where your abilities are at when you're thinking about going back to work, or taking something super part-time as just a way of getting out and doing things, I think is super useful. Because it's true, like, the social isolation when you're taken out of the workforce is real and is super damaging. So Yeah, sorry, I don't have the name of the resource to give you. I know it exists, and I can Google it later, and we can link up if you like.
I find it very difficult when one day you're working hard and everything's like you were saying earlier, just speed walking and, you know, enjoying life to going. And I used to weigh like about at least 150 pounds less than I do now. And it's just very difficult. And if you sit around all day watching YouTube or being on social media, you get depressed and, you know, you have nobody to talk to. And so it's better to get out there. And besides, that's what I want to do. I just don't want to be alone all the time. Thank you very much for answering my question.
Yeah, well, let's chat somewhere later.
I can absolutely help you get in touch with the Disability Alliance. I am familiar with them as well, and if you ever want to come hang out at the office, we can totally put you to work. All right. Okay.
Jamie,
Yep, oh, great.
I don't know how many parents. I know there's a kids room. I don't know how many parents are here. One thing I would say that has been so great for us is these summer camps. I know that the Stollery hospital has worked with UCSF, I believe. There's one called the Painted Turtle. Brian Hanna has a camp called Echo Hill School, I think it's called, in the East Coast. My son Lucas, for the last 5 or 6 years, goes to one called Camp del Corazon in Los Angeles. And so kids from all over the United States and Canada come and be kids for a weekend or 4 or 5 days or whatever it is. So I would say as a parent, thinking back 5 or 6 years ago when he first started, it was kind of stressful and intense and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's great for not just the kids. It's good for parents of kids with chronic illnesses. And no one knows what happens at camp, you know. But I will say this too. One of my partner's son, Ian, who had a double lung transplant like a year ago, he's went for 2 or 3 years as well, and he came back this summer to learn how to be a counselor, so he's going to go be a counselor at the next session, so he's paying that forward too. So I encourage any parents to send your kid away to camp.
No, I've had the opportunity to take some of our cardiac kids to Camp del Corazon, and they're different kids when they come back, and it's a different kind of camp, but that sense of connectedness is remarkable. And again, with social media, they keep in contact for years and years, and they meet up with each other in Australia, and when they become adults, and they go to each other's weddings, and they celebrate, they have sorrow together, but it's a remarkable, ongoing, lifelong community after, so it's remarkable to watch.
Maybe we need grown-up camp too.
I am on board.
Well, to be honest with you, the Painted Turtle camp that the PH kids went to, it's for all family members, so it's encompassing for siblings. There's the connectedness for parents is remarkable, and they're from different parts of the world too, so it's an entire family camp. So that one's a little different. So the focus is a bit different, but it's worthy. It's great.
Take note, sponsors. Camps. I've got another question over here.
Judy, what resources are there for children that have parents with PH?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure what BC has, and in Alberta, it's not great. Hopefully, we can build those mechanisms in place. A lot of our families at the Stollery that we have, some are from Edmonton, many are from other different regions, but it's definitely an area we have to work on. As a child life specialist, that's truly a role that we have, and we would like to be working with children who have parents that are ill with illness. That's definitely a hole that we have. So I don't have a good answer for that. I'm sorry.
I know that PHA Canada has this comic book that we got ages ago that we have sort of used a little bit. My son is 7, so he wasn't, he's sort of reading it a little bit, but he hadn't quite taken it up. But it's a really neat little comic book about a kid who's learning with this superhero team all about his mom's pulmonary hypertension. And so it uses language that kids are able to understand. So that's something I would encourage parents who have kids, parents with PH who have kids to make use of. And I think there are some other resources as well.
So yeah, you can order the MediKids comic book for free off of our website. If you received a new to PH PEDS kit. You should have received one from your clinic or from our office already. But if you haven't, absolutely, we can get you one. We can send one to you in the mail. But I think, do you want to talk a little bit about support groups and the role that support groups have in sort of helping parents with PH manage that relationship?
Oh, parents with PH, yeah, okay. Well, the support groups are invaluable, and any member of a support group will tell you that, because they're out there for a while feeling like they're the only people in British Columbia with pulmonary hypertension. But when they get together with other people and they share ideas and they learn, like I share the literature I get with them, and sometimes that answers their questions. Now, most of the ladies that we have in our group in the Okanagan, their kids are grown and gone. But I'm sure if they, the patients that I did have before when I worked, they had younger children. And it was definitely something that really needed to happen. And like Lisa said, I just found out that there's a counselor going to be funded for the clinic here. And I think that's just fabulous. And that would be something that I could see a counselor really doing, working with those patients with PH and how to be with their kids and how to interact with their kids and how to make them understand. And
grandchildren.
And grandchildren. Oh, yes, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'll just add one more thing in terms of a resource is that, the reality is that Canada's a big country. You folks are spread out all over the place, and there isn't always a support group available in your community. And, even in big cities like Vancouver, there's not always an active support group at any one given time. So one thing the PHA Canada can help you do is to make those connections. So while Facebook and online stuff really works well for some people, it may not work for everyone. So if you're ever really just looking to connect with somebody, especially if it's over something really specific, like I'm looking to talk to a parent who also has a kid my age or something like that, that's something that we can really help make those connections and connect people one-on-one. I think Sharon and then Joan.
First, just want to say thanks for tackling this topic to everybody that's up there. It's really good to have a encompassing conversation about it. One thing I've always thought about is I don't have the perfect family support, and I often hear that it's really positive for people. It's taken me a few years to realize often family dynamics, history that has happened in the family. I had an older sister that passed away from brain cancer many, many years ago, but it definitely affected our family. And to be frank, I don't think they ever really coped with it very well. And as a result, they're not really prepared to have another sick person, another tragedy in the family. And so it's taken me a few years to realize it's not me. It's not that I'm not worthy of support. It's sometimes because people aren't capable of giving it. And we take it on as thinking, I'm not getting the support. What's wrong with me? I'm lonely. But it takes time to realize it's not necessarily our fault. It's not we're the problem. We're in a life circumstance where our family members are dealing with different things. Maybe they've dealt with them not as well as they should have. And it's just real. And I just wanted to share that because lots of times I've thought about writing an article or something about what about when you don't get the best family support, because that definitely happens in the room. And, sometimes you can take that on and you really shouldn't be taking that, that kind of weight on.
Thank
So
you.
I really just wanted to share that for those that, don't get a lot of support.
Thank you. Go ahead, Joan.
And I just wanted to share a little bit about our story in terms of a support group. I'm a caregiver to my daughter Brooke, and when she was diagnosed in 2014, the thing that I'll say saved us initially was support group. It was within a week of being diagnosed, Brooke said, I think I need to go and talk to people who have PH. And I didn't want to go. I did not want to go to a room that I thought was going to have people that were sick. And I thought, this is going to take every ounce of my strength to do this, but it's what she wants to do, so we're going to do it. And it ended up being, for us, one of the most important days of our experience with PH. That particular support group has been disbanded because, as Tarya said, sometimes they're just really hard to keep together, unfortunately, because there's a lot of people who just feel that it will be a negative experience, and for some people perhaps it is, but for so many of us it's a positive experience. I continue to go to support group once a month. As a caregiver, I go to support group and I travel 2 hours every month to go. I found another support group and I go just because for me, I get so much out of it. I learn about what not every PH patient lives the same way, deals the same way, and it helps me as a support giver or a caregiver to understand how other people are dealing with their illness, their disease. It helps me to understand, even though I'm probably one of the very few caregivers that's in the room, for me it is an experience that I cannot live without, and I will continue to go to that support group as long as that support group's available to me.
You know, in our cardiac program, which is it's a much bit larger than our PH program, and I think we'll start with some of our young adults because there's some different privacy issues, but some of our young adults have developed, they've used the app Marco Polo, so it's the one where you videotape, and so they can choose to join and not be part of it, and they can share what's working for them or if they're having a good day or a bad day, so they're creating their own kind of virtual support groups that way. And also some of our parents are using Zoom so that if they can't attend certain meetings or different things, it's almost like FaceTime, so it's a face-to-face versus just a phone call. So there's I'm not great with technology, but they're figuring out different ways to support each other it's very exciting because they'll ask me to be on. I can't because I'm not allowed to be, but they show us some of the things that they're doing, like water skiing with a pump, which they maybe shouldn't be, but they do some of the different things. So it's just exciting because it can really build a lot of strength that way, and then supporting when things aren't going so hot. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I think getting creative is sort of, comes with the territory. Like I said, we're a big country, and PH is a small world in some ways. So we've definitely seen online support groups form and thrive in some cases, and we can, and again, PHA Canada can support a couple of different ways. We can really support you if you do want to set up a group and sort of walk you through that process. We have resources, including financial resources, to help support groups do what they do, and we can also help connect people by video conference and things like that. So yeah, if you're ever just looking to reach out and connect with people and you just don't know where to start, your clinic is always a good place, a good resource, and then calling us is also another good place to go. So I think I've got comments from Carolyn, and then at the table next to her as well.
Yeah, just a little feedback. So I'm the nurse coordinator in Ottawa. There's occasionally times when patients come to me that somebody's struggling in the family, whether it's a child, like you were questioning about children, or if it's yourself, your spouse, family members. Often we're not psychologists, but we can find help for you if we know you're struggling. So reach out to us for sure. I've gone to the psychologist at the Ottawa hospital, and I've said I need some counseling is expensive, right? It's not covered. But I said I need some low-cost counseling, and often the universities will have such types of counseling available. So if there's something you're struggling with and you don't know where to go, certainly reach out to us and we can try and help guide you through that, navigate you through that system so you don't feel alone. And if we know of support groups in our areas, we can certainly plug you into that, or we can certainly help you start one because we know how to do that. And that's something that maybe some of the communities really could use, and with a little help, you might be able to get one off the ground.
It may not be as difficult as you think, especially with a bit of help.
Yeah, we did a good job in Ottawa, so
Can I jump in with a quick comment on that too?
Yeah.
Just really quick, on the counseling services, for folks, I would encourage you, even if you don't feel like you're struggling necessarily, we are so fortunate, thanks to BCPHS, to have access to a counselor, and so for folks to help get some tools and tips and tricks on how to manage before you're getting to a point where you feel like you're struggling. I would totally encourage folks.
Sometimes it's just short little, you just need a few months of maybe, and you can find some low-cost counseling just for some tools of how to get by certain situations, and then you're all set. Thanks.
I think right, is there one last question? Yeah, right next to you, Carolyn. This is going to be our last question, and then I'll have one closing comment, and then we're going to wrap this session up and move on.
I think I got my answer, but I'm from Northern BC, Prince George. I was diagnosed in November, and it's been a struggle. There's no information in Northern BC on PH, no support groups, not even a contact person up there. I found out everything through online. So what I need to know is, how do we start a support group? How do we get even a nurse that would know about PH up in that area? There's people that cry out over Facebook that are, and because of our winters, we're stranded, right? So support groups up there is something that we really do need.
Yeah, so again, PHA Canada can help you if you're interested in setting up a support group. I think we're very fortunate in Canada that we have expert centers and medical specialists spread out across the country. But the reality is they're not present in rural and remote communities. I understand that. So that, I think, is where technology comes into play. And so, yeah, talk to us. I know it's not the same as having a person face to face, but we're absolutely there to help you. And together with the clinic, we can certainly work together to help people set up groups. Video conferencing experts or other resources to help a group. I mean, a few months ago, I met with the London support group in Ontario thanks to video conferencing. So it can be done, but it does take a little bit of creativity and a little bit of willingness to sometimes to try new things. So give us a call and we'll absolutely help you out. So the last thing I just wanted to mention on the point about the counseling program is that something else that PHA Canada did a couple years ago with the help of a counselor was develop a wellness handbook. So there is a resource on our website that is specifically dedicated to these issues, and it's been written specifically for folks with PH. So it's about an 8-part series, downloadable and available on the website. We can also, we don't have printed copies of it, but if you needed something printed, we could provide that for you as well. So, reach out to us at any time, and whether it's printed resources, financial resources for your group, helping connect with other people, that's what we're here for. And with the help of folks like these, help of folks at your clinic, we'll make sure that you get the support that you need. All right. Please help me in thanking our speakers today.